Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Welcome back to Connecting the Dots. I'm Alex, broadcasting live from the Snarful Solutions Group studios here in Sacramento, California.
And I'm Morgan. It is Monday, November 10th, 2025.
Yeah.
And today, well, we're focusing on a major global media story. Really quite something.
Yeah, it really is. But before we get into that big headline, let's quickly check in locally. Here in Sacramento, that dense fog is finally lifting. Should be mostly sunny later, high of 77. Pretty nice.
Definitely nicer than much of the country. If you're tuning in from the East Coast, it's brutal. A really frigid, cold air mass hitting the eastern two-thirds. We're talking record-breaking cold in the southeast.
Wow.
Yeah, and heavy lake effect snow near the Great Lakes, too. Oh, and an elevated fire threat on the central Gulf Coast. So, quite a contrast.
A huge contrast. Though, speaking of positives, the markets, they finished last week pretty strong on Friday.
Right.
The Dow closed up at 0.31% at 47,242.08. S&P 500 also up 0.21%, closing at 6,799.69.
And Bitcoin had a good day, too.
It really did. Closed strong at 106,165.3. That's up over 1.3%. So, some good momentum ending the week.
Definitely. Okay, now before we really dig into today's main story from the Morning Star Report, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Old Glory.
Ah, yes, Old Glory. If you're already thinking about holiday gifts, maybe for that techie friend who also loves music or sports, they're perfect.
Totally. They're an iconic fan merch store, just tons of great stuff.
And we've got a deal for you, our listeners. Use the promo code SNARFUL, that's SNARFUL at checkout, and you'll get 15% off your entire purchase.
The website is oldglory.com. Check them out.
Okay, so let's unpack the Morning Star Report. Today, really, there's one story dominating everything, and it's about institutional credibility, maybe collapsing almost overnight. We're talking about the BBC.
Yeah, a massive shakeup. The speed was, frankly, stunning. Sunday night, we get the news. BBC Director General Tim Davie resigns, and the head of news, Deborah Turness, also resigns.
Just like that. For a huge public broadcaster like the BBC, that's seismic. An immediate leadership vacuum, almost.
And it was all triggered by a leaked memo. This memo, written by a former BBC advisor, Michael Prescott, it got published in The Telegraph.
And it contained a really specific, very damaging accusation.
Extremely damaging. Prescott alleged that the BBC's flagship documentary program, Panorama, deliberately misled viewers.
How so?
By editing a speech by Donald Trump. The claim is they edited it to make it sound like he was, explicitly and immediately telling supporters to attack the U.S. Capitol.
Which is a huge charge of journalistic manipulation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the responses from Davie and Turness were, immediate, but also quite careful. Davie admitted some mistakes happened and said he took ultimate responsibility.
Okay, taking the fall personally.
Right. And Turness, she actually showed up at Broadcasting House and told reporters, "The buck stops with me." Pretty direct.
But she also defended the institution itself, didn't she?
She did. She added that, quote, "BBC News is not institutionally biased." So it's like, I failed here, but the whole organization isn't rotten.
That's a difficult line to walk. Accepting personal blame while trying to shield the BBC brand itself, you have to wonder if people buy that distinction when the error is this significant.
Well, and things moved fast after that. The BBC chair, Samir Shah, he sent a letter pretty quickly to the UK Culture Committee. That's kind of their parliamentary oversight.
And what did the letter say? Did it confirm the problem?
It did. Shah accepted, and this is the key phrase, an error of judgment. He specifically admitted the editing did give the impression of a direct call for violent action.
Wow. So a direct admission.
Yes, and a formal apology, too. Quote, "We would like to apologize for that error of judgment." So this wasn't just, a minor quibble. It was acknowledging they created a false impression.
Okay, so let's get right into the specifics then, because this is the core of it, right? What exactly was edited? What caused, over 500 complaints?
It comes down to how they spliced two separate lines from that Trump speech. The Panorama documentary apparently took his line, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be with you."
Okay, I remember that part.
And they immediately followed it with a line spoken much later in the speech. "And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore."
Okay, putting those two together sounds pretty direct. But the key fact from the memo was?
The key fact, the absolute bombshell, is that those two statements were made 54 minutes apart in the original speech.
54. Wow, not like a few seconds or a minute, nearly an hour apart.
Exactly. Completely different points in the speech, different context. Mashing them together creates a narrative that just wasn't there in reality. It implies immediate incitement to violence right after saying, let's walk down there.
It goes way beyond just editing for time, doesn't it? That feels like constructing a moment.
It certainly seems that way. And what's sort of fascinating, or maybe troubling, is the BBC's initial explanation through Chair Shah.
What did they say? How did they justify it?
Shah said the edit was intended to, quote, convey the message of the speech so the audience could better understand how it had been received by Trump supporters.
Convey the message. That sounds interpretive, not exactly reporting.
That's the problem, isn't it? Especially with something so sensitive. The job is surely to report what was actually said in context, not to shape it to show how some people might have felt. That justification, frankly, doesn't hold up under scrutiny, ethically speaking.
And it raises bigger questions, especially since, as the reports note, this isn't exactly the first time the BBC's impartiality or editorial standards have been questioned recently.
That's right. There was the issue with the Gaza documentary, where Ofcom, the UK regulator, found them in serious breach of broadcasting rules.
And wasn't there something about a Glastonbury performance, too?
Yeah, the Punktu Bob Vylan. That caused some controversy over perceived political messaging. So when you stack these things up, the isolated mistake defense for this Trump edit, it starts to look a bit weaker to the public. It suggests maybe a pattern, or at least recurring problems with editorial control.
Which logically leads to the fallout. What happened next?
Well, predictably, Donald Trump responded very quickly. He sent a letter.
Threatening to sue.
Threatening legal action against the BBC, yes. And he also publicly celebrated the resignations, called Davie and Turness corrupt journalists, trying to, quote, step on the scales of a presidential election.
Strong words. So the political fight just escalated into a potential legal one.
Absolutely. And the BBC seems prepared for that. Chair Shah was quoted saying Trump is a, quote, litigious fellow, so we should be prepared for all outcomes. Basically, lawyers get ready.
Okay, so legal battles aside, what about internally? How does the BBC plan to fix this, to rebuild that trust?
That's maybe the most important part institutionally. Shah laid out a plan. They're going to, quote, sharpen and strengthen their editorial processes, specifically to champion impartiality.
How? Any specifics?
Yes, a key structural change. They plan to re-engineer their editorial guidelines and standards committee, the EGSC.
That sounds like the internal watchdog group.
Pretty much. It's the main body that's supposed to ensure content meets their standards. So changing it acknowledges the current system failed in this instance. They're promising an overhaul, essentially.
And they're widening its scope, too, right?
Critically important point, yes. The plan is for this committee's oversight to cover all BBC output, not just news and current affairs, documentaries, entertainment, everything.
So applying the same standards everywhere.
That seems to be the goal. They're also changing who sits on the committee. The full proposal hits the BBC board in December. It shows they understand they need systemic changes, not just apologies.
Because ultimately, for an organization like the BBC, public trust is everything. Especially now, with so much information and misinformation out there, verifiable facts presented accurately are just crucial.
Absolutely crucial. This whole episode highlights that tension, doesn't it? Between trying to maybe interpret or convey a message versus just reporting the unvarnished facts in context.
And when that line gets crossed, especially this blatantly, the consequences have to be severe and swift. And, well, 2 top executives resigning overnight is certainly swift.
It is. The takeaway for you listening might be that these big media institutions just don't have the leeway they perhaps once did. Mistakes or deliberate manipulations get exposed instantly now. The demand for transparency is huge.
Okay, a really significant story. Before we wrap up, let's thank our other sponsor for today, Skony.
Right, Skony. If you're a golfer or no one, Skony is the place for premium golf shoes. Really high-quality gear to maybe improve your game this season or for a great holiday gift.
And again, we have that promo code for you. Use SNARFUL, SNARFUL, at checkout for 15% off your entire purchase.
The website is skony.com. That's skoni.com.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the key points from today's main story. First, the shock resignations at the very top of the BBC, the Director General and Head of News, after that leaked memo.
Second, the BBC chair's official admission of an error of judgment, specifically apologizing for that misleading edit of the Trump speech, combining statements made almost an hour apart.
Third, the fallout. immediate legal threats from President Trump, and the BBC's own plan to rebuild trust by overhauling its main editorial standards committee, the EGSC, and applying those standards across all content.
It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? Was this incredibly fast accountability a true commitment to getting it right? Or was it simply unavoidable because of the leak and the very public pressure, especially from a president known for litigation?
Definitely something to watch as the BBC tries to navigate this.
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.